Thanks so much, Al. Let me jump into it. We've got a lot to get through. So the big thing for me is everybody that's in the session, there'll be a lot more of us joining as we go along. It's quite important for us to just keep track of what we want to talk about today and make it about business across Africa and within the different African markets. But before I carry on, I'm going to jump into the next slide that just tells you a little bit about what we do so that you guys are aware that there is a call to action to these sessions. So if you feel stuck or if you feel there's a little bit of information that you didn't quite get, don't stress about it. There will be something that you can connect with and then have a session with me afterwards, and we can then talk through any challenges that you're facing. So first, a little bit about Small Business Help Desk. This is really Al's intro, but I'm going to do it if that's okay. Basically, we are just a group of small business owners. For me, in my case, I have a few different businesses that I have an interest in, and we work across Africa. I'm very passionate about working with our brothers and sisters across border, and I feel like these markets are just untapped. And I think most of you sitting in this room may not be South African, you may be Zimbabwean or from Botswana or Namibian, or even further up, and understand and see the opportunities that I see across our different countries. But there is sometimes a little bit of a challenge on how do we keep these relationships alive. Small challenges for big businesses is huge challenges for us as small business owners. You know, a flight to Botswana, a couple of hours drive in the car does cost us money, not just in the fuel and the ticket price, but also in our time. And that's the one commodity we all sell as small business owners is time. So to find out a little bit more about the Small Business Help Desk, I think through the ad you clicked to join the session or the database that you were on, there's always a call to action at the bottom where you can join a WhatsApp group or visit the website, and then you can get some more information there. There's a lot of kind of free content that we share there so that we can help. Al's just popped it in the chat section. And basically, just before I jump into what we do, Brad is under Hot Mustard and the team. What I would like you guys to do is in the chat section, tell me where you would like to work. So I could say, hi, I'm Brad. I am, let's say, a web developer, and I would like to do more work. I'm from South Africa. I'd like to do more work in Botswana. As those chats come through, I can also give you guys a little bit of advice on how to get that right in the easiest possible way. So we have a section within our business that deals directly with the diplomatic embassies and consulates that are represented throughout Africa in South Africa. So as we all know, South Africa is the second largest host of a diplomatic grouping. Washington is the biggest. We're the second biggest, meaning we have a lot of African embassies sitting in Pretoria or Joburg, some in Cape Town, that we can use and leverage to help us get across border. And in turn, if you're sitting in Namibia, you also have representation from your brothers and sisters. You've got someone from Botswana, you've got someone from South Africa there. The Zimbabwean embassy in Namibia is good as far as I know. I've never seen them in person, but I believe they're quite hands-on. And the thing what we need to remember is that the purpose of an embassy, so if you're sitting in Namibia and you want to do more work, for example, in Zimbabwe, and you're concerned, you have legitimate concerns, you have logistic concerns, you have social concerns, you have limited budget, what do I do? Where do I start? So the first thing I would recommend is seek out that country's embassy. Go and have a conversation with them. Chat to them about what you can do to start the ball rolling. Now, that's what we do as an agency. So we charge a consultation fee, and if you come to us, we will say to you, we will set up a meeting with the ambassador or the investment attaché, and we will get in contact with you and make that relationship between you and them quite strong. We have the connections. It's very easy for us to get those meetings, provided that you have substantial investment into their country. You've got intention, and it doesn't always mean money. They are not necessarily always looking for money investment. Sometimes they're looking for a brilliant photographer who can teach and be on the ground and grow the skill of their local communities. Country like Zimbabwe, for example, right now is very big on building resourcing internally in their country. I know Namibia is also one of them as well. They're very passionate about growing the local skill set in their country. They don't want to be reliant on South Africa. They want to build their own kind of ecosystem so that their citizens can grow and thrive within their own safe space. So I'm going to then jump straight into it. Just to give you a little bit of feedback about why I'm kind of passionate about this. I used to spend a lot of my holidays in Bulawayo. My granddad is Zimbabwean. And as a kid, we used to get kind of pushed off to Bulawayo and we would spend a lot of amazing times. And, you know, it basically became our home from home, away from home. And one of the things I picked up, especially being quite small and growing up in that space, is my granddad had really amazing relationships with his community. And it was the baker, it was the guy that serviced his landies, the guys that he worked with on the mines. He was very close. And I didn't just see that in Bulawayo. I saw that when my dad is Zambian, when in Zambia, in Livingstone, it was the same story. So for me, we tend to think that, you know, considering what is going on in the news, that we're quite hostile to each other. But actually, if you really think about the essence of being on this continent, it is all about relationships and it's all about trust. But a lot of the feedback we're getting now is, well, we're modernizing, we're becoming bigger, we're becoming global, therefore we're losing that. I still believe that trust definitely matters when you're trying to do business cross-border. So if you take a step back from your business, and let's say, for example, Siba Ghani says to me, Brad, I'm in Bulawayo. I would like to do more work with companies in Pretoria. But your business is not established. You're not taking your own business seriously. That's going to erode my trust because when I go online to do a little bit of more background check to see what your business is about, who you are, what are your socials looking like, I'm kind of not seeing much. So your intention is that you want to do that work across border, but are you living up to that expectation yourself? And when you are not, when I find a lot of businesses are not doing that, they become defensive and they say, yeah, but I mean, you know, the Zimbabweans are like this, or, you know, South Africans are this. And actually a lot of it comes down to trust. So although things are a little bit faster, the competition is a bit tougher. Especially I am not a huge fan of what I consider off-continent competition. It does make it difficult for us on the ground when, you know, a lot of our industries are dominated by off-continent companies. But I also understand that they're looking for opportunity and we are a resource-heavy location and they want to be part of the journey. But still, for me, relationships with our brothers and sisters is really, really important. It's almost biblical because that's what's going to get you to conquer all the risks of doing business from someone sitting quite a far away from you, protected by their own laws, protected by their own set of ethics that they operate under. So even though a lot of us will say things are changing, I still think that there's a great opportunity in creating strong relationships with the people on the ground. The question is how do we do that? If I don't know you from a bar of soap and I want to do work, let's say, for example, in Windhoek, and I want to open up a store in Windhoek, I don't know much about it. I was there as a child. I can't remember much. I have a certain amount of money I want to invest. How, you know, where do I start? So the thing with cross-border trade is it's incredibly complex at the moment. Yes, we have kind of trade deals between the different countries, but you and I on the ground are not really privy to that. We don't really know much about it, so we can't really leverage it without getting advice. And this is where I fall back onto go and speak to the embassies. They will guide you. They will advise you. What they will do is they will call you in. You'll have a meeting with them. You'll explain your intentions. They will look at your business. They will evaluate your business, and they will say to you, look, if you want to do business in our country, you've got to get the following in order. because I'm not even going to introduce you to anybody else unless you have that in order. And that's actually quite a good thing. Um, so once you get into your market and you get into that relationship with the investment or business attaché in the embassy or the consulate, they will then introduce you to their investment division or a specific government entity in the country. Keep in mind that if I am, let's say, from Zambia and I am an attaché, I work in the embassy, right? And in Pretoria, I naturally have a list of companies from my country that I believe would benefit from cross-border trade. I've already done my homework. I don't just sit there and go to events. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of information that I pull from government entities in Zambia to bring onto my desk to say, okay, I need now to target to get these companies to come work in South Africa, and then I need to find South African companies who can work in Zambia. So this is very much something that is not done very quickly, and it's not something that is done in kind of a loose style. This is something that is incredibly planned, thought out, and articulated. It is incredibly sophisticated, and I don't think that is something we realize. We just see in the news now our Malawians, our brothers and sisters camping outside, and we look at the embassy and we think, okay, that's what they're good for. They're just there to for their citizens, but it's actually not like that at all. So I want to shift our thinking from just kind of a once-off thing to how do I stay in this country and how do I stay relevant in the country? If I'm going to open up a shop in Windhoek, or I'm going to launch a photography business in, let's say, Kenya, purely because of the landscape, the amount of tourism, etc., and I want to be taken seriously. I don't just want to get on a flight, go there and do freelance work. I want an account there. I want a business registered there. I want to be able to safely say that I've got a company that is global, because that'll technically mean you have a global business. How do I do this? It's definitely something very long term. There's not going to be a quick turnaround. It's going to take time. So if you're going to put that amount of energy in, you've got to think of this as something you're in, and you're in for a very long time. So the whole purpose of this session is just to keep your relationships live on the ground. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context around how do we work with each other, and where do we, as the guys on the ground that maybe might not have political contacts, we might not be multimillionaires in our own country, but we still see value in investing in another country. How do we do it? So what we're talking through now is basically approaching the embassy of the country we would like to go into, having a conversation with them. If that does not work, you would then contact your embassy in that country, because their role is to facilitate their citizens. So that is what you would do. Again, I'm not going to guarantee they pick up the phone. I mean, if you try and phone the Greece embassy, they never pick up the phone. But some of them are very attentive. So don't just have one country on your list. Look at all your options. Work through every single one of them. Who do we have a trade agreement that will affect me? So I'm going to give you a couple of case studies to show kind of what we do in our success story, but also to reinforce you that this is not as hard as we think it is. It just takes a little bit of dedication and a bit of time. So first thing is first, if you are wanting to move into a country with your business, it works very different to you applying for a visit visa or just popping into the country for a holiday or whatever. It's a very different process, and it's going to also affect you personally, because you're going to need to have access to that company. You're going to need to be able to get in and out of that country safely, and you're going to need to have protection, right protection. And as what we've seen lately in South Africa, we don't want to have spent a lot of money setting up our businesses and something like this happened. So it's very important for me that engaging with the embassies gives you that level of protection, because they know way ahead of time what the risks are, because they have direct briefings with that country's presidential department. It might not be the president himself, but the presidential department or the Department of Foreign Affairs will brief them regularly on what's happening, what's coming up, so that they can also protect their citizens in the country. So although we've only known about, let's say, for example, what happened yesterday for, let's say, 2 or 3 months, they've known about it for about 6 months to a year. So it's very important to build a very close relationship with the respective attaches so that you have a very, very good avenue or stream into that market that can give you the information you need to mitigate the risk. Now, a lot of people say, Brad, the way you're speaking, this sounds like I need to be a multinational. Actually, not really. So a couple of case studies. We took a pharmaceutical company. We've done a steel company. We've done a tourism company. We've even done a manufacturing company that manufactures a specific product. We are currently working on a food company. I hope I'm saying company, not country. And, there's the different kinds of, and these are mid-level businesses. So there's definitely opportunity for everybody in the session to benefit from this. Just going to take a quick pause. Going to have a look at the comments and see where we are. So we've had Enoch who says, I'm joining from Malawi, looking for advantage to start a global business, open to learning more before venturing into this thing. Thank you. So Enoch, yeah. And I mean, the perception, Malawi is such an underrated country. You guys do some really amazing stuff there. And there's so much opportunity there. But a global business can be in one or two ways. One, it can be virtual. So, for example, you decide, well, I took an example of the photographer in the beginning. You're a photographer, you want to sell your services, because you can just jump, you can get on a plane. If they're prepared to pay your price and they want you to come in and shoot something of theirs, you can come in, you can do it. So you would start an online presence. You would then go to the embassy of the country you want to enter and say, can you please put me through to your tourism attaché who deals with your tourism? They will then set up a meeting. You go and sit with them. You say, hi, I'm a photographer. This is my website. I would like to attract some clients from Kenya. I am based in Malawi. So what will happen then is their question will be, why did you choose Kenya? No, I chose it because you guys have a lot more tourism than we do. A lot of my photography is wildlife photography. And I really think you can benefit from having your country captured in a beautiful way. And how can I work with you to see how we can attract more tourists into the country? So it becomes a business conversation rather than an emotional conversation. And that's what I love about working with the embassies. So just a quick shout out. So on in the chat, I just want to say hi to Ruth. Ruth is from Kenya. Guys, I'm so happy to have people from all over our awesome, awesome continent. In the top right-hand corner, there's a QR code. So for me, I do a lot of masterclasses and I find a lot of people struggle to absorb the information. I try and keep it as simple as possible and very open to questions. So please post as many questions as you can in the chat. But if you do want a half an hour one-on-one, I do offer that. There's no cost to it. You just scan the QR code, you send through your details on the page that you will land, and I will then, it'll come through to my email. I will then reach out to you, probably via WhatsApp or email, and I'll schedule some time with you. And then we can have a full half an hour around your business. And we can talk through the challenges and what you need to do, et cetera, and get advice. Because every single business is different. Every single scenario is different. And the one thing I think is really important for all of us sitting in this room, although we're sitting on the same continent, all our countries are wildly different to each other. And we think differently in terms of consuming. Our industries are a little bit different, et cetera, and we need to respect that. So just a bit of a reality check here on the markets, on African markets. So a lot of people look at, let's say, America and go, why are we not like America? Where it's one currency, one president, and we all operate under kind of one set of law, and we United States of Africa. The big thing for me is there's a sense of sovereignty in having your own country with its own laws because we are so culturally different. And it's not just a country that's culturally different, it's within that country. The different states, the different locations, the different areas are different. There's different beliefs, there's different traditions, and that all needs to be respected. We are not, and we can actually see it in America now, how the different states are kind of struggling to find identity because they're getting kind of literally whitewashed under one, this is what you need, this is what a typical American looks like. But that's not the reality. So if you look at our continent and you look from South Africa all the way up to Tunisia, Morocco, and all that, and look at how many cultures are caught up in this space. So every single country has a unique business culture, and they are not going to adapt to you. You need to adapt to them. And this is the fundamental problem we have with South Africans specifically. I'm born in South Africa, is we tend to think because we're the biggest economy. I don't even think we are anymore, but they do. I heard the president saying but we're not. But anyway, you will do business my way. I'm coming in with this idea, it's going to revolutionize your industry. No, that's not how it works on any level. You've got to understand the business culture. You've got to respect it for what it is because it has evolved and adapted to that environment. And you've got to understand that the decisions that are made in that country and the process of making that decision is very different to how decisions are made in your country. And I think a lot of the Namibians, Malawians, Mozambicans will understand this because for so long they're expected to be a mini South Africa, and it's not like that at all. In some ways, I have found personally that those economies are way more advanced in certain aspects because they don't have this kind of chip on their shoulder. They've got a survival mechanism that's helping this ecosystem grow. So when we do a lot of work with the Zimbabwean representatives, and I always find they are so open and hungry to listen and understand, and they ask questions. And even if that client is not suitable for their market, they will still show interest. And they would have such genuine emotion around that product that it's so heartwarming. And it's not just another blank slate face that you're dealing with. So your business model, your thinking, where you're sitting right now might work in your ecosystem now, but is it going to work in another ecosystem? Or is it maybe going to grow bigger than where it is now because your ecosystem is not suitable? Just think about that. You don't have to have a business in the country you're born in. You can have a business in another country and it could thrive, but not thrive in yours. And this is what we fail to see. If you look at Europe, Europe's a great example. They're all independent states. Yes, they have the European Union, which in my view has created more problems than benefits, but that's personal. But there are a lot of European countries outside of the Union that are independent, but a lot of their businesses are cross-border. So if you're sitting in Namibia, for example, and you see an opportunity that you don't think will work in your ecosystem, look at your neighbor, look at Angola. And I know the Namibians are struggling a little bit with the Angolans coming into the country illegally, but there's so much opportunity there, the other way around, for you to go in there and say, okay, these guys are like literally crossing border. Why? What's going on? Okay, they need this. This is a resource. My market is saturated, but I know this can work in Angola. Let me approach the Angolan embassy. Let me see what they're saying and have a conversation with them. But it's very, very important that we understand that although we are classified as Africa, there are so many different cultures that is just a blanket. It cannot explain properly what we are made of in our DNA as a group of countries. I think, again, just have to go to Europe. I mean, you've got Belgium's a tiny little country. You've got Holland, Netherlands. They're the size of Gauteng. Inside the Netherlands, how many cultures are there? Many. It's not just pure Dutch. There's elements and breakaways, and they all just kind of carry on. So it's quite nice to see that happening, and I honestly believe for us we can do that. So, guys, we're halfway through the session. I hope I haven't bored you guys to death yet. But let's have a little bit of a reflection on the chat section, guys. Any other questions, please, please, please ask away. If I can't answer them, maybe someone in the room can, because we're doing this collectively. Just a couple of things. And Tlantla's doing photography. I like to do work with American countries. The same process, actually. And if you're looking at South America, again, independent, different. They call it Latin America, but there's so much going on in that space. And out of respect, you need to do your homework. But again, reach out. I do a lot of work with the Paraguayan embassy, and Karim and them are fantastic. Karim actually grew up in South Africa. She absolutely loves it. She comes from a diplomatic family, and this is her second home. She's completely embraced it. But she's very passionate about her own country, and she will definitely be able to guide you and give you information on how to get into the country, what to do, etc., etc. So they're all there to support and help. It's not a home affairs experience. It's not like you are going to get someone that just looks at you as if you've asked them for gold. It's not like that at all. So we've got Siva, who's seeking general trade supply opportunities with neighboring states and other African countries. So again, find the states that you want to work with, do a lot of research around them. Don't rely on social media. Don't rely on what your neighbor says, even if they are from that country. Do your own research. And remember, in order to achieve long-term success in that country, build good relationships. That is the key. If you're going to enter in a market with the intention of who you're going to do in, how am I going to get the best out of this and leave? How can I exploit this market? I'm telling you now, it may work for 1% of the people that do that, but for majority others, and I've literally seen it, it will backfire on you and cost you a lot of money. So Siva, all the way from Ekurhuleni, please, please, please do a little bit more research. Also think about your logistics. Sometimes flying from here to Kenya might sometimes work out cheaper in terms of the time, the energy, etc., than flying from here to Botswana, for example. Pay attention to your logistics. We're not Europe. We don't have £1 seat fares yet. We will get there, but we don't have that. We don't have a high-speed rail that I can jump on now. While I'm working, I can be in Harare in a couple of hours or an hour or two, whatever. And it's cool. And it costs me 100 Rand or 200 Rand. We don't have that. So we have to always understand the logistics. And that's why long-term relationships work. Because you're going to need to trust that representative on the ground to take your best interests forward and for them to navigate the challenges. And you need to be aware of what they're navigating. So Joshua, hi Joshua, Tanzania, a young leader, founder of UNI Entrepreneurship 2050 and currently an operations manager at a courier company. I'm passionate about operations management and investment research. Very strong interest in improving organizational performance and supporting people with investment decisions. As a Tanzanian, I have solid understanding of the country's business environment. I love this, including business registration, and this is the kind of thing we need to do. So the question to Joshua is, Joshua, if I do a little bit of research on you, I take your name and your surname, am I going to find your website? Am I going to find more information about how you have helped other businesses? If you don't have examples of how you've helped other businesses, how can you help those businesses? Do you have legitimate contact details, a legitimate address? All of those things. Is those trust building mechanisms in place? And then what marketing are you doing to draw people into Tanzania? Beautiful, beautiful space. Absolutely beautiful. A lot of opportunity. So let's get a feedback from Joshua. If he's got thumbs up on all of that, we have his number and we can reach out to him and see what we can do. couple of things that would worry me, Josh, is that you have a Gmail. So my advice to you would be create a business, register a domain, get an email. These are the things we need to do, guys. And we need to do this because they build trust. So I want to give you an example, actually. This is actually so perfect. I sometimes do master classes or lecturing at WITS and for entrepreneurs that are students, or students that are entrepreneurs, whichever way you want to see it. And Faith hosts these sessions. And Faith is one of the most dynamic people I've ever met. And these entrepreneurs are mind-blowing. They're like 18 years old and 19 and 20, and they're doing amazing things. They got their head on their shoulders when I was still trying to figure out where my life was going. But the important thing is that Faith reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this issue. I've got this kind of business that I'm running, but we're not really creating traction. We book holidays, but what we've done is we're doing a lot of social media marketing, but we're pushing through directly to the ticket purchasing portal. And my response to Faith was, Faith, I really think you need to own your traffic. Create a website. Oh, no, we have one. Okay. Focus on your website as the initial landing space for someone to come in. Because if you directly put them through to the ticket purchasing portal, they're going to think something's off. And that's the thing with us on this continent. As much as we are soft, loving, warm people, we're not dumb. And yes, there may be some of us that are being taken advantage of. Maybe we just let our guard down for a minute. But our guts are something that's never off. And I think that is the amazing thing about doing business here. You can pick up straight away, oh, no, something's off. For me, Joshua, the main thing is if I see a Gmail, I'm like, no, this guy, no, I won't introduce any businesses to him. And I'm sorry, but it's no attack on you personally. It's just my view. So very important, guys. Get serious with your businesses because they're going to help you build trust while you're sleeping. Very, very important. So basically jumping onto the 4 pillars that I want to take you through. Hey, guys, I just want to remind you that the slides will be shared with you. You can go through them. I've designed these slides. I see my spacing's a bit off here, but I've designed these slides to be very simple. And that's the thing with me. I like to keep things simple because I don't want to have long slides that I've got to read through. And a lot of this is stuff we know, but might just need to be reminded of. Okay, you know what? Can I actually rely on this person? What do I know about them? Let me go and do a bit of research. Am I actually, when somebody says to me, send my catalog, am I waiting 2 weeks before I send it? Or am I on top of it? Am I watching my emails? If the person phones me, am I answering the phone? Am I returning the call? When somebody calls me and they're phoning from another country, is my call going to be quiet enough to have a conversation with them because it's long distance? If it's a video call, what do I look like? All these small little things elevates our business acumen and helps us to be taken more seriously when we do approach the embassies. When you pick up the phone or you email or you go to an event where these embassy representatives will be, and they do host events, they host lots of events, and you meet someone, will that person take you seriously? Because although, like I said, we tend to be soft, we do tend to be naturally trusting, but this is a different level of trust that we need to introduce. So sustainable partnerships, I always have this written down. Trust. Do we trust each other? Consistency. Do I show up regularly? Do they show up regularly? Visibility. When last have I spoken to this person? When last have I chatted to them? When last have they chatted to me? Do I have a direct line of communication with them, etc., etc.? And value. Are you adding value beyond the product or the service you sell? What are you bringing to this partnership? What are you bringing to this relationship? It can't just be, I've got a gentleman from Nigeria that reached out and he was just like, I need my products here, please. I'm like, okay, but there's got to be fair exchange here. I can't just give you access to that market. Let's talk. Never phone back. Set up a meeting, never pitched for the meeting. So these things are all telltale signs about this guy's not serious. I'll move on to something else. And that's the big thing about us. We don't like to do that. We don't like to just say, this is not working for me. I'm going to try something else. Because we come from a mindset of scarcity, there's not enough. But just think, if you don't think there's enough money on this continent, just look at how much money is being stolen by our governments, all our governments. There's no, they're not doing it. And then ask yourself that question again. There's money here. You just have to go into your main city centers and see. You just have to go to Cape Town and see the amount of Ferraris and McLarens and all those fancy cars. You just have to go to Joburg. You just have to go to Harare. You just have to go to all the capitals. Gaborone, you guys are not also have fancy oaks there running around with incredible amounts of money. Now, often I talk around as a business owner, and this is really based on Maya Angelou's teachings, to what end? So I'm not here to drive I'm not put on this planet to drive a Ferrari. I've been put on this planet to do bigger and greater things that align with my value system. So that's not my expectation, but it shows you and it shows me that there can be money money can be made in this environment. So staying in the line of sight for me is really important. So in Tlantla, if you're struggling with the QR code, you know what I'll quickly do? I'll pop you down my email. You can just mail me. It's simple. I'll just pop it quick in the chat and oops, made a mistake. And then just pop me a mail and then we'll be able to chat. So very, very important. When you shift your business into a new country or you're exploring new countries, you've got to sit down and say to yourself, what are my accessibility points in this country? In other words, how do I get access to this market once my business is in the market? Can I get there when I need to in an emergency? What are the visa regulations? And this is the conversations you'll have with the embassies. If this happens, what recourse do I have? Do I have support from the government? What are they? For example, some of our clients we moved across into Zim, they've been allocated land that they can then build on in lieu of the investment and what skills they're bringing into the country. And they're not a massive business. And one of the things that all the embassies say to us after we've introduced our clients to them, and the clients have left and we stay behind and we have a cup of tea and, line of sight, stay in contact. All of them say, you know what the biggest problem is? We have large amount of companies coming to us, want to work in our country. We tell them this is the way forward. We never hear from them again. And that is the problem. We are not consistent. We think if we meet with them once, everything will be done. This takes at least a year for you to get into the country properly, build those relationships. So, can I get to the country? Is it accessible? If you say, Brad, I can drive to Botswana, I can be there within a few hours. Fair enough. What happens if your car breaks down? What do you do? What happens if you have a bad month and you can't afford the car and the car gets taken? Can you still get to the country? And these are things as small business owners we must pay attention to us because we all sitting in this room understand the pressures of owning a business. There's not one of us in this room, unless I'm hugely mistaken, that has not bared the brunt of a bad month, lack of cash flow, etc., etc. We can be from different countries. The fundamentals of running a business, the cash flow issues, clients not paying us, etc., remain. So Mauritius might sound like that is heaven to be. And we've got a lot of people flocking and registering their businesses there because they want to get citizenship. But have they truly explored the true cost of doing business in that country? Because if that country was as easy as those ads make out to be, why they're putting the ads there in the first place. So sometimes we might, Mauritius, oh my God, South Africa, we've got to go to South Africa. But that might not be the space where your business thrives. And the only way you're going to find that out is if you do your research. When you find people on the ground, you build trust with them, you get to know them. How does Nomvula in Gaborone know? How does she think? What is her thinking pattern? What does she see as a good deal? What are her goals for this business that we're going to be doing together? The other thing, in lieu of that comment, is a lot of countries want you to empower, employ locally, and also possibly share ownership, which personally I don't think such a bad thing. Again, it's all about finding the right person and building the trust. So this session is really, really just to encourage you guys to understand that your relationship with the people on the ground are so vitally important for your business. You cannot go there saying, this is how I do business, and I want you to do business like that. They're going to say, yes, no problem. And as you turn your back and you get in your car and you go across the border, they're going to do exactly what they've done for the last 20 years. So you've got to understand that you're starting in a new country, you're building a new vision, you're creating a new version of your business practices, etc., etc. You're not just simply cookie cutting. And we've seen that in many examples of big corporate brands that have taken their companies into Europe, into Australia, into Asia, and have had to close and shut and because they didn't do the pure due diligence that they needed to do. They made ego decisions, they made financial decisions instead of making relationship decisions. And it's not relationship in sense of boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, partner. It's business relationship that you've got to manage because you want to grow this long term. You don't want to go and open up a salon there, or you want to open up a help desk or an accountancy firm there, or et cetera, et cetera. And in 6 months' time, you have to close that. You'll still be liable for the lease, the taxes, et cetera. So, big thing, a lot of the information that we get from the embassies is how long do you want to be here for? What is your intention? Is it just in and out, or are you just here to do skills development? They don't mind as long as you do skills development, but that's really important. So guys, we've got 15 minutes left. This hour always goes super fast. I wanted to say thank you so much for your time. There's quite a few of us in the room, which I'm quite happy with, and a lot of you guys have stayed around, which I'm also happy with. If there is any questions or comments that you want to guys put down in the chat section, I can read it out. If you felt like this has been helpful, if this topic has been on point, please let us know. If there are other topics that you guys would like us to talk through, maybe you want to have a more in-depth cross-border marketing session, or maybe Almarie needs to bring in a bookkeeper who works across border and how it works, bringing money from one country into the other. It's also a challenge. Let us know. So we can also understand what you guys are looking for, because we want to do this regularly and build our community. So strong partnerships, there's shared value always. Never you own more than the other, it's shared. Your shareholding, I'm not talking about your actual shares, I'm talking about in terms of value. The opportunities are there for both, the country you're going into and for you. And then also when you do make money, how do you deal with it? We actually met, it was with the Zambian attaché, and they were saying, from a tax perspective, we have so many tax derivatives that you can come here, make money, and you can take the money. We don't have a problem with that. As long as you create jobs, you pay your cost and expenses for being here. That's more important for us. Is to create, and also ownership. We need to give the people on the ground ownership. So I think there's really good intentions. We often have a perception of Africa in some way, but when you start to work on the ground, you really truly believe how amazing it is and how dynamic our industries are. And then if you have a weak relationship or partnership in that country or with the country itself, Um, when you start to, the one thing the embassies don't do is urgency. And it's not like they drag their feet, but they don't do this, okay, I need to be in the country next month, because then they'll just say, red flag, not interested. They sit down with you and they say, this is going to be a 6 month plan. This is exactly what's going to happen across that 6 month if you show up. And then we will then start talking about what's the next plan after that. The quickest you can get on the ground is about 3 to 6 months if you have all your ducks in a row. Although we've just helped a client now where I think they will start the relationship and the trading probably next month. It was a very quick one, is because they needed that particular resource. So they've kind of fast tracked it as well. So these are the things you need to look out for, and then you can then make an evasive decision. So I've just done this nice diagram using chat, and I thought it was quite nice, nicely done. So for me, these are the values that you need to go in with when you go cross border, and this for me will create long-term partnerships that you can take forward. The key takeaway from the session is, please remember every market is different. Use the embassies, absolutely, 100% use the embassies for what they're there for. Be patient, be respectful. Don't come in with a sense of, I know better. Listen. Sit back and listen, because you will learn a lot from just sitting and listening. They're coming with a wealth of experience. And if they don't have experience, they will bring somebody in who has experience. So we might think our ambassadors are political appointees, but these guys are not dum-dums. They know what they're doing.
Hey, uko na
So
yabut.
yeah, so we'll just have to mute that chappy. So we have a couple of comments here before we close off, or just do final review on points. Nomvula was saying, connecting on leading with values, Brad. Thank you for this approach and insight. Yeah, I think we had this interesting discussion yesterday, completely different, not cross-border, but about our policies in South Africa not being enforced by the country. And the comment that came out was, why do we always need to first wait for enforcement? You know, we are not Australia, where we live under a huge amount of surveillance and enforcement. We're certainly not the States. And that might bring us a whole new lot of problems as a continent. But that's not our DNA. So what we need to do is understand, and this has been my value set my entire working life, is I shouldn't wait for someone to tell me, don't do that, Brad. I should know this is not how it works. I'm not going to do that. And I understand in the real world that sometimes you have to make decisions that don't really align with your values, and that's great. If it's going to get you, as if it's in a means to an end, you do you and you make that decision, but that will have consequences, and you must be happy with those. So a lot of people living in ivory towers are incredibly unhappy people. I spend a lot of time with those people and have made business decisions that they've regretted, and only later in their life. But then again, the feedback and the kickback I get is, I'd rather cry in a Bentley than a Toyota Corolla. And I've kind of been in both, and I feel like a Toyota Corolla is more grounded, and I cry around more powerful things than the things I'm crying for when I'm sitting in a Bentley. But that's my pearls of wisdom, guys. I believe we have such potential across this continent. I can't wait for you guys to join the WhatsApp group. It's just a bunch of business owners. Almarie's vision is to just fill a stadium one day with all of us from across this beautiful continent, where we just share the amazing energy behind being a small business owner. The one thing I want to reassure you, though, from wherever you're sitting, that we know business ownership is not easy. We see you, we see what you're doing. Reach out to us, join the WhatsApp group, email me, scan in the QR code, do what you need to do to feel like you're not alone. And I have had lots of failings in my business career, and I still face a lot of challenges. But the one thing I know, I don't give up. And none of us do. That's the one thing about us. We do not sit and wait for handouts. We are not a social state on that element. Even though the media says we are, I can tell you we're not. We get up, get going. You just have to go to the villages and the locations early in the hours of the morning, and you can see a lot of people running around, getting out, getting on with their day, even before the sun is up. And that is our culture. We are a working group of people. So let's leverage the good sides of what we are, the characteristics that make us great, to help our businesses grow across border. Very, very, very important. Um, don't think because you're not that demographic that you cannot eventually understand how those people work. We all have culture. We all have different perspective on things, but we all there to make money as business owners. That's what we're there for. That's the single goal, is to make money in our businesses. We do that with a sense of culture. We do that with a sense of ethics. We do that with a sense of trust. We bring all those elements in. But at the end of the day, we put food on the table for our families. Whether that means that you live in Botswana and have a business in South Africa, or you live in Namibia and you have a business in Angola, there's no rules. There's absolutely no rules. You can own 3 businesses in 3 different countries and live in the other country. You can move between those countries. I've done it. You can do it. So don't use your current circumstance to dictate where your business is going. Go and see the embassies. If they don't want to see you and they're non-responsive, move on to the next. If you get really stuck, make a plan for the consultation fee, scan the QR code, come see us. I'll get you the meeting with that embassy. I'll sit with you in the embassy if you're South African based, or we'll do it virtually if you're not. And we meet with them and see where it goes. But you always have options. So guys, I hope you found the session to be interesting. We always try and bring in a sense of knowledge, but we also want a sense of familiarity so that you guys can see that no matter where we sit, we're pretty much the same when it comes to business. You know, we're figuring things out as we grow. So guys, thank you again for your time. I'm going to hand back to Almarie. But if you can just pop in the comment section how you guys have felt, what are you feeling right now? Are you motivated? And what are you going to do differently today to get you closer to that cross-border dream? Thanks so much, Al.